Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. So glad you're with us to stay curious. Kicking off December on a Monday, December 2nd, 2024. And I have with me Gabriel Rothblatt, our executive director. Hi, Gabriel.
How's it going, Mark?
Well, Gabriel, you tell me. Gabriel's the executive director of our nonprofit foundation, the U.S. Space Walk of Fame, and I'm the director of the museum with day-to-day operations. And we've been doing this for a month, so got both rudders in the water and full steam ahead, right?
Absolutely. I use the analogy of riding the ship often, and you got to change that course, um, and then let it sit. Anytime you're in a plane, in a vessel, something like that, you make some adjustments. Doesn't quite kick in all of a sudden. But after a month, year, we are seeing starting to see it in the numbers, right? So that's what's great. Tracking the attendance, managing the sales donations, just modernizing, right? I mean, this is what we are doing together here, is what we are experiencing in the outside in the commercial space world, right? We had decades of government funded, projects, which is what we honor and preserve here, but we also inspire. And so I see bringing the museum into the 21st century, is a lot of what we are doing here, and not only modernizing our internal processes, but modernizing our exhibits to show, preserve, and inspire the history that is still being made right here on the Space Coast today.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, Gabriel. And we're the museum has been on solid ground for many years, and just we lost our executive director Karen Conklin in August, and that's why these changes came about. She did a good job, but we didn't have the staff to keep our eye on everything, and we're so blessed to have Gabriel want to devote a lot of his time. He's not a paid employee at this point here. He's on our board of directors, and this is what you do. What your education is you're very oriented towards structures of businesses from the human resources side all the way down to the accounting side. And so we're blessed to have you here. We're working as a great team, I think, together. We both got completely different tasks throughout the day. Of course, me putting together a Stay Curious 5 minutes late is part of my thing here. I just kept adding more and more to it, and then Marty came up with a good little surprise for me here that I don't even think you know about here. But we are so blessed and thankful during this season of appreciation for every dollar that you have contributed, and many of you have given us over $1,000 this year. And great contributors like Steve Jokums. Don't Steve see? Yeah, there's Steve up there. Steve is giving us a percentage of his business every year. He has a decal business for shuttle models called the Lake County Spaceport. And last
Yes.
year he gave us over $500 of his business, and he has donated already patches and decals for Shuttle Fest. We're going to talk about in a minute. And Steve, we're so appreciative of you. He sent me an email. I'm not done contributing yet. We still got the end of the year. I think he's given us 10% of his sales. And if we could get other companies to think like that is what we're all about now, right?
Absolutely, yes. Steve and Lake County Spaceport, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and the others out there who do, like our advisor Al Kohler and NE3, one of our directors Chuck Jeffries and Bid Again
Mm-hmm.
Auctions, as well as many others. I continue to get more familiar with in the executive director role. So interesting, there's nothing that demonstrates the principle that it's a small world better than space.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, the perspective of going to space, the world is big when you're on it. And you look at it from space and you're like, wow, we're all in this together. And so, my time over 10 years in space advocacy, um, it's never lost on me, going to different places and working with different organizations. And you know you see a lot of the same people popping up again, and so Lake County Spaceport is something I've been aware of, for some time, and thrilled to just honored to have their support here. So absolutely, yes. If you are interested, and come reach out to Mark, reach out to me, Gabriel at AmericanSpaceMuseum.org, or Mark with a Q, MarQ at AmericanSpaceMuseum.org. We would love to speak with you about your business, about your interest and desire to help us preserve and inspire.
Absolutely. And we are all of our regulars are pouring in here. Their greetings. Gary Gerald drove down 25 from Augusta coming here last night, buddy. And I'll stop by and see you one day in Collins. Uh, there's CB, Charlton Bailey, whose photography we use, and another way to support us non-financially. CB's been great about that. Dave Stange, I need a good plate of crow here to eat from all the Ohio State horrible game that we had against Michigan. Michigan beat us at fair and square, big upset, and Dave Stange and Chris Callie won't let me forget about it.
Well, I was rooting for my home Maryland Ravens last night, so I understand your loss.
Yeah, they're in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well, I was the Ravens, not University
Oh,
of Maryland.
the Ravens,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yeah, Baltimore Ravens, yeah, right, yeah, exactly, yeah, that was another big surprise there. But that's good to talk football. Good to everybody stay warm. I was up there in Tennessee. I enjoyed my vacation. You were around your kids, had a good time on there, and we're ready to hit the ground running here and get December lined up for a fabulous first quarter that I'm going to go over quickly with Gabriel on today's show, what we got lined up. Also going to talk interesting, Gabriel. We've got this date on December 2nd. 4 space shuttles were launched on December 2nd of the 8 in the whole month of December. 4 of them were launched on the same day, December 2nd here. Of course, we got Marty Winkle manning the Streamlabs board there. Marty, thank you so much for doing what you do all the time. Here's our little tease that Gabriel is going to be on today there. And Marty brought this picture in. Would you believe 11 shuttles orbiting the Earth on this date in history? And we're going to talk about them briefly here at the end of the program. But Marty brought this in. The National Space Club of Florida Committee has out at Spaceview Park a plaque of the honorees, and I won the Colcom Award for communications. I was just completely floored by this, and I didn't even think about it being out there yet, but my name's in granite there. So yeah. Marty, thanks for sharing that with me there. I'm very honored with this Colcom Award for communications. It's all because of my passion for this museum, Gabriel, and and that's how you and I met each other. Both so passionate about what we were doing, and we collided over 3-2-1 day, celebrating Ozzy last March. But yeah, I'm pretty honored and can't believe that I didn't have to spend $100 like Marty did to get my name out there. Right? You're in 2 places out there. But these are things that truly, for me, are about the museum and not about me. I've had a lot of my awards and stuff. I'm not an awards guy, but I feel comfortable with who I am and what I do. But boy, this was out of left field, and glad that you could attend it. My sister was in town from Texas, and it was quite an event, wasn't it?
Absolutely, lovely event. It was well run. Just touching moments. From everybody who was there. Honored to be there to support you and the recipient of that, and especially pleased to be in this position to help the museum, here. So we love the National Space Club and really appreciate them holding space and continually, honoring those who have done it, those who continue to do it, and just looking forward to seeing more of our docents, directors, and other partners in preservation and inspiration of space, continue to be honored there.
Yeah, we all support each other. It's a friendly rivalry. I kind of felt weird that I've only been around here 7 years, and there's a lot of people put decades in, like Carlton Bailey, that certainly deserve the award. It's just such a cool community, and that is what we want to build here at the American Space Museum is a fellowship of the shuttle space workers, just like the Apollo space workers built this museum with Spaceview Park. The torch has passed from Apollo to shuttle. It really has, because of the age of these Apollo people are in their 80s and 90s. And this is where you and I together want to build a strong foundation for this museum to go on for many decades. And it's you're in your 40s. I'm not. You're the generation that I think really needs to get a hold of this museum and allow it to flourish, because it does inspire everybody who comes in here. Gabriel, as I was looking at why we've got the green screen there, this has to do with Marty's question we're going to have in a minute. 2 shuttles on the pad. Okay. And I wanted to see, where is that other shuttle there? But you've been around here now about 9 months. What's your impression of this place that the American Space Museum has in the grand scheme of space museums?
Yeah. So in this time here, it has been really eye-opening and inspiring to see this place not only is built for fellowship, was built out of fellowship, right? So this is the museum by, for, and of the people who did it themselves, right? This isn't a theme park, this isn't government sponsored, we are the summation of the efforts, the desires of the local space workers, some of them astronauts, some of them engineers, crane operators, but the people who lived it, who did it, who were part of it, they're the ones who came together to honor this in their hometown, right? I mean, Titusville is the town that built space, right? And the Space Coast has blossomed, has thrived, has grown so much, and this is a gem in in a quaint, lovely, pedestrian walkable town. Titusville has an old Florida charm in the middle of a future spaceport. And there's really, I don't think there's any place on Earth that brings together history, nature, and space like Titusville does. You got one causeway going to space, one causeway going to nature, and it's just a beautiful intersection.
The Merritt Wildlife Refuge, we're just sitting a few miles from it. We're 9 miles, 10 miles from where these mighty shuttles launched off of across the Indian River. I'm very blessed to be part of this, and I was spiritually led here. In a way, you're a spiritual man, and you feel the vibe here. I know you do, and it's that's why you and I've connected. But I also wanted Gabriel to tell you he's very involved with another organization, several in fact. He wears many hats, but the National Space Society is your executive director of the local chapter. That's how you and I met on there. And Dick is on our show once a month. And we really want to, you and me really have some plans for our museum and the National Space Society to do things together.
Absolutely. It's a great partnership. The National Space Society is a grassroots education and advocacy group. It's formed out of a merger, but the entities that it originated at are 50 years old this year,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this year in 2025, 75 years of launching rockets from Cape Canaveral this year, 50 years of advocacy for human space habitation, which is really what the National Space Society really is advocating for, the rights of humans to live and work and play in space. And from all that, so many other relationships. It's a large membership organization. So working with a group like American Space Museum to find, ways to include access into the membership, benefit. We're excited to bring that to the table in 2025, which will be so great in both ways, adding to the value proposition for the National Space Society, but also raising the awareness of the Space Walk of Fame and American Space Museum to thousands of international space advocates who now more than ever are coming back to the Space Coast, maybe coming for the Space Coast. I didn't meet them. I've known this person for 10 plus years. They have been working in the space for over 25 years, almost 30 years. This person has been a space advocate. They attended the Space Settlement Summit we held just a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
the first time they were ever able to see a launch in person.
Oh, wow.
Right? Not even the first time out here, but the first time that of all the times that a launch occurred while the 3 days that they were here. And in 3 days on the Space Coast, it's hard to miss a launch at this point.
It is. Those noisy rockets going off every 3 days, basically. I think we've hit 90. I missed one while I was away. Gabriel's also part of, has been for decades, a serious group of people studying to live off this planet. The International Space Development Conference brings in 1,000 people every year, and you're chairman of the next one in June in Orlando, land of everything, which will be fun. This is what, the 40 something of development conference. And
Yeah. Yes.
tell us
Yes.
a little about
So,
that. People don't realize we've been trying to get off this planet since 1961 and Yuri Gagarin, basically, but the idea of really getting off this planet and living as a multi-planet species is a very serious thing, and you're part of this conference in June. Tell us about
absolutely, absolutely. So the International Space Development Conference, June 19th through 22nd, 2025, will be at the Rosen Center in Orlando. I am honored to be the chair for the ISDC. It hasn't been back in Florida since 2009, and it is the 50th anniversary of the founding of the L5 Society, which was a group inspired by Gerard K. O'Neill to occupy the Lagrange points in space. And, based on his book, The High Frontier, really the blueprint for human settlement of space. And this has been a lifelong passion. I really was socialized into space. It wasn't, a class or a professor or something I had along the lines. My parents were space, advocates, entrepreneurs, enthusiasts. So it really was the conversation at the dinner table, for me. They say, apples don't fall far from the tree. I say, meteorites don't fall far from the comet.
Right.
And so it was a natural, course for me to pursue. But the International Space Development Conference is the leading conversation on how do humans live, thrive, survive in space. Not just crossing the Kármán line and coming back, not just putting a satellite up, but permanent, long-term human habitation. What does that mean? What does that look like? How do we start developing towards the rights of people to because we are a citizen grassroots advocacy group. So I'll use that opportunity to talk about the theme of ISDC.
Mm-hmm.
International Space Development Conference theme for this year is Together Beyond. And I chose that theme because of what it represents to me in what the National Space Society is as a civic institution. In the fabric of our capitalist democracy, we must advocate as citizens to our fellow citizens, to our representatives, to get anything done, to get anything passed. It needs public will on its side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the National Space Society comes in, restoring funding to projects that NASA has lost focus for, like New Horizons. We did that and kept that project running.
That went to Pluto and another dwarf planet, now going on to something else. So we wouldn't know what Pluto looks like. It's one of the most mesmerizing objects in our solar system if it wasn't for the advocacy of your organization and to get the funding for New Horizons.
Absolutely, right? So that, and we are on Capitol Hill every March. One of our programs is called March Storm. We train local, and because this March Storm, I would say it's great if we have astronauts, they come sometimes and we'll bring them around in front of the congressman. But really what March Storm is about finding people from local districts all over the country. We bring them into DC, we give them a training, we give them the talking points, and we set them loose in the halls of Congress, because there is nothing better than a constituent of that congressperson asking them to fund space. And it takes all 535, right? Senators, congressmen, not just the one who, right? I mean, it's not just our congressmen here on the Space Coast, right? We need all of them, even if there is no NASA there. Mm-hmm. And so for every year, March Storm, we select, inspire, and train and mobilize local residents to go and lobby Congress on behalf of space funding and space projects, which has done not only save New Horizons, but is also responsible for the streamlining of bureaucracy here at a federal spaceport to allow for commercial space launches. That was something that was holding us back 20 years ago, up until about 5 years ago, really. Mm-hmm. The bureaucracy was keeping more rockets on the ground than gravity, as we used to say.
Yeah. Well, we're joining this conversation with our executive director of the American Space Museum's U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation, Gabriel Rothblatt. That's some of the treasurer and VP of the National Space Society, is one of his side hustles there.
Chapter, just in case Joe is watching out here, he's actually the treasurer of the National Space Society and the treasurer of this Florida chapter of the society.
And we're glad that Gabriel is here. I'm glad he's doing things. We're completely separate on what we're doing, and it's a great mix together. I'm looking at Mitch Rothman as our manned space commentator. He lives down there in Lake Wales, and he's hearing your political savvy here. And I'll bet he'd like some help with, he's got a movement to make July 20th International Moon Day.
Yeah, I
told Mitch that Stay Curious is a forum for you, Mitch. Mitch Rothman with Manned Space did a program back about a month ago, and I think you met Mitch at a couple of things we've done.
Yep.
So what do you think about having a National Moon Day?
So this is great, and I'd love to hear more and more, talk about Moon Day, but I've actually been celebrating Moon Day for almost 20 years.
Okay.
On July 20th.
How do you do that?
Well, so
what's your celebration like?
Right. Yeah. So we actually, we hold a colloquium is what we call it, which is, fancy word for, just a gathering of kind of legal minds. And we try to select about 6 people to give presentations. And then we do a little Q&A at the end. We do it online. It's like a kind of webinar thing. It's free to attend. We record
Mm-hmm.
it, put it out there. But for nearly 20 years, we have been holding a colloquium on July 20th, because it is the Moon Day celebration. We're not always necessarily very moon or space oriented, because it is a futurist conversation, but we do try to keep the July 20th, you know, space expansion, themed. And we do another one actually in December where we focus more on, the kind of human rights side of questions versus the more scientific, technical side, which is often what we talk about more in July. But for 20 years, we've been holding that colloquium, and just really in the last, I think this year, it's been great to see everybody now wants to do a moon day, right? So I feel that this was built on the success of Yuri's night, for April 12th, celebration of the shuttle and Yuri Gagarin, and now Space Week, Moon Day. Everyone is looking, 3, 2, 1, right? Where's another anniversary that we can get in here? Maybe December 2nd, for all of our shuttles.
Sounds good there, Mitch. We'll keep connected with you there in your man's space. He's got an excellent Facebook page that celebrates the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, and ASTP programs there. Hi, Doug Forrest in Los Angeles there. Helene Milbert. Excited to see Helene watching today. I saw some of the devastation of Hurricane Helene up there in my neck of the woods, and it is really bad. The whole river's diverted and so forth. But you had nothing to do with that, Helene Milbert, I know. But anyway, I'm looking at who else is chiming in there. Tom Celentano, he's looking forward to going to ISDC in 2025. Is that going to be virtual broadcasts at all? Some of the things are there.
No.
If you can't make it in person, you're not going to get in on it. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's really,
There's too much going on at one time. You have 3 or 4 different little workshop lectures going on at the same simultaneously, right? So,
yes. Some of the content will be recorded and may ultimately be made public, but this is not a hybrid conference. We had to skip one during COVID.
gotcha.
And we never tried to make it a hybrid. In fact, I mean, there's nothing like the energy of the ISDC. There are hundreds of international students who are competing in one or more space settlement design competitions, right? There are space policy debates. And I will say that I've done a lot of conferences, gone to a lot of different places, but there's nothing like the palpable energy and excitement of hundreds of international students applying their dreams, their inspiration, their ideas for space settlement. I mean, you cannot compare that online to seeing the twinkle in in their eyes as they explain to you, and very well thought out how they would create a society on a moon in free space, whatnot. And so there's really, again, going back to the fellowship of it, most of these people have their own projects, have their own keynotes. You might be able to find some of the stuff out there online, but the connections that are made there, we just there's nothing that a hybrid conference can do to bring together, to recreate the energy that is experienced, for that conference. And myself as well as many others, it's the first time that often many future space enthusiasts, um, you know, got on stage and was able to express themselves. Students, young professionals, else. So short list: Lori Garver, former director at the National Space Society, newly elected Congressman George Whiteside, former director the National Space Society, space X Prize founder Peter Diamandis, former director National Space Society. Right? I mean, the list goes on. Buzz Aldrin was once the chief executive officer of the National Space Society. The list goes on and on and on. And it's just a great company to keep. And I will say, unfortunately, not being broadcasted, live. You got to be there in person, but being in Orlando, it will be one of the easiest and best times to attend the conference in person, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Where can we register for that?
Absolutely. The National Space Society has registration open. I believe it's isdc.nss.org. But definitely, if you look up National Space Society or the International Space Conference, should be top search result for you there. So registrations are open. I'll also say that one of the many prizes that we do there is the Rothblatt Space Settlement in Our Lifetime Business Plan Competition. It is a business plan competition founded by my father, Martin Rothblatt, founder of Sirius Satellite Radio, among many other things. And so every year we give 3 prize purses to the winning business plans of concepts that get in our lifetime humans living in space.
We've had them living in space for 22 years continuously, but this is not exactly. It's living in space, but not at this dimension of whole communities on space. And the paradox I see is how popular science fiction space shows have been since Star Trek and to Babylon 5. I got on a Babylon 5 kick here a while back and watching it from doing a binging on it. And this is what you're talking about, though, is societies living in a space station or on Mars or the moon, and you need rules, you need regulations, you need human intervention of kindness, and Gabriel's very big in transhuman and nanotechnology things going on right now that is really truly part of your generation of how we're going to adapt as a human species to all the things we have to, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But isn't it a paradox that you got Babylon 5 that I thought was kind of cool, enjoyed it, and we've not even gotten close to that yet. If we have, right now we've got 10 human beings orbiting the Earth. Okay, 3 Chinese and 7 in the International Space Station. And 50 years ago, I'd have thought there'd be at least 30 people living on the moon, like a South Pole expedition rotating out, and mining the moon and doing great things in science. And is it because it's so hard, Gabriel, or is it because of the attitude of people?
Yeah, well, I guess go back. It's the common will, right? We are capable of achieving everything if we can work together, right? If we have the will, we have the cooperation, there is no physical feat that humanity cannot conquer, together, right? And so at the end of it, and this is, my perspective on it is that none of this was ever a technical problem. It was always a social problem. And so I do look at this from a sociological, perspective. And I believe with, yes, the right belief system, the right, faith, common dream, desire, drive, it can get done. And sadly, we've been missing that because unfortunately, um, we're not always driven by, altruistic, you know, causes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so having someone to beat often, especially, I would say, especially for Americans, right? For our, psyche, we need to be on top. We need to win, right? And so without a competitor, we are not driven to our best. And I will say that that's when we had someone to compete, when we had someone to beat, we were at the best top of our game. And for the last 20 years, we haven't had any competition, so to speak, and we've not been at the top of our game. That's changed. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, hats off to China and what they've been doing with their project and the space station. Um, same India, congratulations on the successful moon landings.
Yeah.
You know, um, that's going to change, our position. Now, we have something to compete against, and that's going to get us back in our game face.
India is not far from their own crewed space program. China, I believe that this is the only 15th or 16th human space flight in their history, and they've already incorporated 3 women into their program. There's a woman now, first Chinese engineer on their Tangong space station. So, yeah, they don't, the Americans don't consider it a moon race or whatever with China yet. And India too. India's got the biggest population in the world now, and they're very scientific, always been scientifically oriented. Indian people, great minds with math and science, and now they're going to the moon too.
Yeah. Well, let me take that opportunity to bring this back around to answer a question you
Yeah.
you began earlier with ISDC and Together Beyond, right? Uh, One of the powers of our, political system is the ability to build coalition, right? And aligning with our worldview, with the, American, model of the future allows many more nations to access space. And so this was a part of the Cold War and the Russians putting an African Cuban into space to
Mm-hmm.
show that they were championing diversity more than Americans, were. That was a big kick to us. I mean, and that was something that really got us
Mm-hmm.
changing how we went about things because we were, we had mud in our face, so to speak. So the Together Beyond is about the American spirit of lifting people up with our success, right? So there are many nations, and you will see this at the International Space Development Conference, because we have teams from so many of these partner nations who are excited about the association, the affiliation, the alliance with America and America's space program, because you do not see the Russians and Chinese putting people from other countries into space like you do with the United States. And so Together Beyond is, a call out to the spirit of the American alliance that makes us stronger together and shows that we can get farther together. Quick alone, farther together. Well,
Right.
there's nothing farther than we're going in space, and we're only going to get there together.
Yeah, I was looking up Arnaldo Mendez was the first person of color to go to space. I was looking up the year. He's 82 years old, and he was a Cuban. And like you said, that was a real kick in the pants. So that Russia pioneering again a uh, let's see, he was up in 1980. 1980. Okay. And Buford, Guy Bluford, he went up in probably 85, somewhere in there, 5 years later, even in there. And Russia might not have the best equipment, but they got the best political machine for propaganda. They truly do. And have you used it time and time again to, like you say, throw mud on America's face there? On there. So I think you all are getting the idea here that we're in good hands. This is a philosophy major from University of Vermont, right?
Absolutely.
In there. So I enjoy talking to Gabriel all the time because we've got some really, I'm not going to say big plans. We've got some solid plans that we know the business model is going to work, and we're going to execute them as part of our business model here at the American Space Museum. Want to just throw up there, as you being a philosopher, here's one of my favorite ladies. This is the holidays, and we're going to talk more about Nicole Stott-isms in her beautiful book, Back to Earth, over here. There's her book there. I don't know if you've read this book, but it's not I wanted to be an astronaut and I became one. There's plenty of that in this book, which is beautiful, but it's more solutions to the global problems we're having with global climate change and other things. The coral reefs are very important, I learned in this book. But Nicole says these things. We are all earthlings. We all live on a planet, and the only border that should matter is the thin blue line. Gabriel, how many times have you heard an astronaut talk about that thin blue line? They're just in
I don't think
awe
I've
of it.
heard him talk about anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they everyone, whether they were expecting it or not, it it becomes transformative, part of their story and their perspective. And I'm a big fan of Frank White, and who actually just joined us at the National Space Society with another philosopher, right?
Frank White's a philosopher.
Frank White, yeah, the architect of the overview effect.
Okay.
Which is exactly that. The transformative perspective of seeing something from that third party, third person perspective, which is what going to space does. And the more people do that, the more people experience it, the more it takes in, right? We all once enough adaptation happens, all of us essentially start to gain the benefits from it. Some people call this the 100 monkey, scenario, but in essence, I'm excited to see this pace that's happening, because I believe we are achieving a point where enough people have gone to space that that overview effect becomes essentially almost like ingrained. You wouldn't have to go to space because enough people have done it that the general population takes it for granted.
Interesting. I can think of many technological marvels like the microwave that was fascinating, or color TV. We didn't have it, the neighbors did.
Mm-hmm.
And then now how many color TVs have I got in my house? One in every room or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the overview effect, all right, isn't it, of everybody? Marty dug deep there. Our crack research department there, Guy Bluford, flew in August 1883. So still the Russians beat us by 3 years of putting a person of color in space. We waited till 1985 to put the first woman in space, or 83, I mean, about the same. 20 years of flying men. China, that was like the fourth or fifth flight was on there. Got a question, Marty? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question from Steve Holcomb. About overview, what do you think will happen when a human sees Earth from where Voyager has seen it?
Voyager spacecraft, billion miles away.
How about just on Mars?
That's a great question, Steve. Thank you for that. And I mean, at that point, I mean, you were seeing even more than just the Earth from above, right? You are of your perspective goes from not just seeing us all in one place, but I think there's a whole nother level of cosmic humility that begins to set in when you see yourself as so small in comparison, um, to the bigger scheme of the universe out there. And I imagine that it's hard. All I can do is try to speculate as to
Well, an analogy would be the Cassini spacecraft took a picture of the Earth beneath the rings, and we just barely looked like a dust mote there, and that was quite cauterizing to everybody's thinking there. Steve Jokums, you remember the first time of the moon rise over the Earth, with Apollo 8, and they're going crazy because they hadn't thought about that in the mission plan. Nobody had said, "Oh, at this time and at this orbit, the Earth's going to come up, so get a picture of it." It was just sort of like, "Hey, wait a minute, I see the Earth coming up here," and probably nothing has changed humanity to this point than seeing that beautiful blue marble with the white clouds and all the colored continents, from space. It's something like Gabriel says, the astronauts always talk about it. Even the cosmonauts on the suborbital flights are so affected by it. That Sarah Sabri, first Egyptian, sat right here, and you thought she'd walked on the moon. That 5 minutes of weightlessness just affected her completely, as we've seen other people. The recent trip to space there by Emily Calendarla.
100th woman.
100th, yeah,
yeah,
sort of. But she can claim it if she wants, because she does a good job of keeping everyone staying curious on her little.
Well, Emily, if you're listening, because I've been trying to reach out, I'm hoping to enlist Emily to be the MC for ISDC. So Emily, if you're listening, or if anyone out there has Emily's ear, I am inviting you, Emily Space Gal, to be the MC at the International Space Development Conference in 2025.
Well, her price has gone up, I'm sure, for that. But no, she's a great outreach with STEAM, and has a lot of popular books and shows. Emily Calendarla. Italian name. She's also on the bus tour out to the Space Center.
Yep.
She does the commentary on that. So, Marty, we're not going to show the shuttle stuff that I racked up here because we've gone almost an hour already, and I'm glad that you all are getting what Gabriel is all about. This is the think tank stuff that we need on board our staff here to push our board of directors forward into a new way of thinking of how this nonprofit is going to sustain itself. And we've got a couple things lined up for this first quarter already. Every January, on the last Sunday of the month, we honor the fallen heroes of the 3 who died on Apollo 1, the 7 who died on Challenger, and the 7 who died on Columbia. And this year's keynote speaker, there's Andy Allen. If you're local, this is just I was so hooked on this first time I saw it, and then I became the MC of it. It's an emotional, patriotic tribute, isn't it? To our.
It was beautiful. Last year was my first time attending the ceremony, and it was very touching. It was just well put together. And having the Civil Air Patrol, the cadets, accompanying, the
presenters,
the reef presenters,
that flower we put on. There's 17 plaques around the flag pole at Sandpoint Park, not Spaceview Park, Sandpoint Park, just a block away, at the end of the bridge that takes you over to the north end of Cape Canaveral, or the Maritime Wildlife Refuge. And Andy Allen, the astronaut pilot commander, a Top Gun in the Navy, and he's CEO of his own business, Aerodyne, and he's also a good friend of the museum. In fact, Aerodyne made a significant contribution to
Yes, I
us
did. Thank you.
recently, and we're thankful for that. So we're going to be putting that on at the end of January. We will be broadcasting that for those of you out of town, and we're going to have an auction in February. That they're racking up today, the 36th auction to sustain this museum. The auction people were inside today, dropping off some of the winnings for people to collect here. And it was another strong auction with a lot of cool items. These are some items that were in it this year. So you've kind of gotten uh, you've gotten the inside that these auctions are very important to us. That this is a used to be a bigger bulk of our sustaining our nonprofit, and it had to change because Chuck and his auction company was not taking a dime from us and giving us it all, and he's turned it into a business. And but still, it's a very very significant amount of our cash flow coming in there. So we're anxious to have another auction, and also in February we'll have our space memorabilia show. Number 6, February 22nd, Saturday at Beachside Hotel. You've enjoyed that the last couple ones we've had.
Yeah, it was a great event. Yeah, just again, there's very amazing things to find, and things you didn't know you wanted, and the fellowships. It just a great way to spend a little bit of your weekend day, and hopefully walk out with something fun, or regiftable even.
We hope to have an astronaut do a book signing there, working on a couple of them. I'm pretty sure we'll get one of them to show up there. And Gabriel, we've planned these for the snowbirds coming here. So we had it in November and February, so we can get the space lovers that are down here from all over the country enjoying warm weather, and we know there's a lot of them too. So, and a lot of them love space, and so we've got that scheduled already at the wonderful Beachside Hotel. But something that you're going to be more involved in than me, and you're already getting the paperwork and the petitions, and there's a lot of legal things that have to be certificates and so forth.
Absolutely.
For 321 Day to celebrate Ozzy Osbourne, but who brought us the 321 area code. This is how you and I met last year. Started at 3:21 p.m. Of course. March 21st is on a Friday this year. What are you cooking up for us?
All right. Well, we are returning to Spaceview Park. But just getting the engine rolling on the permitting process out there. But hopefully, last year we had a 5:00 launch. On 321 Day. I mean, we hoped that something like that would line up, and it just perfect did. So going to be hard to to really top the inaugural event. But coming in on a Friday afternoon, we really hope to get a lot of the snowbird attention down here, bringing people from out of county, because the city, has done a lot to revitalize Spaceview Park in the last few years. It was the original primo launch spot. I mean, mainland, not inside the gates of Cape Canaveral or Kennedy Space Center. Right in downtown is walkable. There's just venues or restaurants around there. So
30 handprints of astronauts in bronze are surrounded by
right,
Mercury, Gemini.
Right, the other monuments. So we are utilizing this event to return attention, community to Spaceview Park into downtown Titusville. So we're really going to center this whole operation. Last year we were in Spaceview Park. We were also in Julia Street, which worked out well. But we really are going to, I think, this time focus into downtown and to the Spaceview Park side, and just really bring attention to the monuments, the opportunities out there, inviting our vendors in, the museums of Brevard, food trucks and music out there. So just a family friendly, enjoyable event, arts, crafts, you name it, free, open to the public, as well. No cost of entry. But we are going to try to utilize the Julia Street for parking to make the Spaceview Park accessible to more people for the evening. And look out, because we are starting with Titusville up here, but among many of our plans for 2025, I'll be talking to the other chambers of commerce in the area, and trying to entice them to create 3-2-1 days, in Palm Bay, in Cocoa, in Melbourne. So my hope is to have a chamber partner and do a 3-2-1 event, with each chamber partner for that local area of Brevard. But right now, we're right here at Spaceview Park, where it all started. Where Ozzy, honestly, a mentor, inspiring role model for me. This guy is the real deal as far as citizen advocacy goes,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Retired veteran, who just was everywhere. The libraries, here,
Ham radio
ham
guy.
radio.
He was a volunteer at Cape Canaveral for a decade. He passed away about a year and a half ago. Self-proclaimed rocket hobo. If you brought your family down from Vermont to see a launch, you're going to remember that launch. And then the second thing you're going to remember is the crazy guy in the white hair that was given the countdown for the launch.
Yep.
And then he grabbed his coffee tip jar out there, and people gratefully put a few bucks in there for him. An Army veteran. We miss you, buddy. He was really a character, like I said, in a good way. One of these people that you don't forget when you meet him. And we had such a wonderful event there. We had green shirts, because he always wore a green for go polo shirt there. Died peacefully in his chair in the middle of the night of a heart situation. Tim Gagnon created a copy of another Rocket Hobo patch there. This kicks off our spring break. This is why Gabriel, I think, is going to have success with the Chamber of Commerce, is to get behind it, because tourism is king here on the Space Coast. And we're actually involved with another event in February, Gabriel, that with the city wanting to make Titusville a dark sky city. And we're going to probably have on the 22nd a Stargaze event out at Spaceview Park to emphasize astrotourism is the word they came up with. I didn't come up with this. The city code enforcement people came up with this. And I told Gabriel, I said, the second day I'm director, here's the code enforcement city people, a man and a woman with code enforcement on their shirt. And I'm going, I don't need this right now. And they, no, we want to talk to you about, do you know about the International Dark Sky Association and how we're not lighting our cities right? There's a right way and a wrong way to illuminate things. And this is really hurting the biosphere of animals that don't have their nocturnal habits are being disrupted, and actually astronomers call it noctalgia, sky grief.
Yes.
Right, noctalgia. Yes. We're suffering from, because you just can't. You can only see 135 stars from your backyard all year long. 135 stars is all you can see. I counted every one of them. Okay, and so this is something that we're getting behind. And Gabriel, people know I'm all about attraction, and you have to promote, but when you attract people, then you've got it made. And this is where we're at now. We're attracting some great people. We attracted you. We're attracting other great thinking people that are going to take us forward here. So winding up our little show here with Gabriel Rothblatt, our executive director, and myself as the museum director. We're going to stay in touch with you. And this is the big deal that we think will be our major fundraiser every year. Shuttle Fest 4 is now 3 days. Yep, we're going to have a bonus Friday night here at the ASM. All right, meet and greet. We've got 3 astronauts booked. Eileen Collins. How can you get any more A-list than Eileen Collins? Don Thomas is just a great guy, 4-time astronaut. Loves talking about the woodpecker that his mission STS-70 put holes in the orange external tank, and he has a funny Woody Woodpecker show on that. Joe Tanner, a great common man that did a couple spacewalks, one on the Hubble telescope. And who else will be there? You'll never know.
You never know. I mean, this is the truth, because we, there's the people that we get and we book, and what we see is that, someone always shows up. We always have kind of a surprise appearance that we don't even know is coming.
Right.
That, they just, and so we're always excited to see, who just walks in the door, which we were joking earlier, does our space walk of fame
Yeah, the only walk-ins we're going to allow are astronauts. You have to pre-register $90 for the event. We're layering a lot of things on there. And Marty, there's a lot of interest in your personal tour of the Lunar Module number 9 out at the Saturn V Center. We're going to offer Friday morning to you early birds, and those that stay late Monday. You go out to the Kennedy Space Center, pay your own ticket out there. Marty's going to give you a private tour of the lunar module, and then Terry White's going to give you a private tour of Atlas Space Shuttle. Terry says he's going to tip him off to what's going on, because they don't want to have a problem with they technically don't want docing about the exhibits out there. So we're going to go along with that. But we got a lot of things going on here. Mike Leinbach and Jay Honeycutt have promised to come. Chris Calley, space artist, ultra mega space artist Chris Calley, and become a good friend of mine in the museum. He's actually coordinating this with me. We've got people like Emily Carney will be there, Space Hipster #1. Author Dave Chudwin has already paid for his ticket, and he's going to autograph some of his books there. And Jonathan Ward, who wrote a book with Eileen Collins and Mike Leinbach. We're going to sandwich him between the two in a forum. And the thing that we like doing is these little panel discussions. People here on the Space Coast love the panel discussions and the interaction. And like you said, there's a dozen astronauts that live around the Space Center here close enough that they might pop in. And I'm talking about Nicole Stott. And I told Mike McCulley I'll buy him a beer if he shows up. All right, we got Bruce Melnick. We've got J.D. Bartow that was part of Shuttle Fest 3. We don't want to leave him out, but this is about the space worker, and we've built it for the space workers, and I think the astronauts will show up. And we're looking forward to it. But again, with this guy's help, we need to make this a serious fundraiser and raise $50,000 to $100,000 a year eventually for the museum. And yes, I mean $50,000 to $100,000 a year is what we need. We are a $250,000 a year operation at best right now, but and struggling to meet all these needs out there. So hope you can register now. Go to our website, download it. Bruce Jacobs, our IT guys, got it all figured out there for you. And when we hit 125, we'll have a waiting list, because that's all this hotel will handle. And we know that this hotel will, we don't want to move it from there, but Dana's done a great job at partnering with us. And it may come where we got some plans on Cocoa Beach for future Shuttle Fest to make it something that you will all remember. But if you miss this one, this will be talked about for years, I guarantee you, because it's going to be intimate. And I'm renting an event tent outside to do some of the things in it. So look at your April 11th to 13th and see if you can come join us for Shuttle Fest 4. So I'm going to skip everything else that I'd planned here, Marty. We'll save that for our guest tomorrow. That's going to be um, Terry White. And Terry White has got, I left the guy's name over there. Fur?
Fur.
Fur?
I think it's Jim Fur.
Yeah, Jim Fur is going to be here. He was the last worker from Kennedy Space Center to leave the Columbia investigation site in Louisiana. And Terry wanted him to come here and give us a map that we might consider using that is a one-of-a-kind map that the Forest Department marked up on where the pieces and parts were that they found, and thinking that that might have there. And we got Cliff Watson asking a question here. Cliffo is in Pomona, Australia. He says dark sky. There's a big thing down here in Australia. Street lights and so forth are being changed for the better dark sky. If I come back for Shuttle Fest, do I have to pay?
Yes.
Well, we'll see, Cliffy. That's a big ticket to get you here. So,
Steve J.
huh?
Steve Hogan paid last year.
Yeah. Steve Holcombs did what?
He paid last year.
Yeah, Steve paid last year, absolutely. Yes, but Cliffy would love to have you here, all right? And what's $90 if you're going to put down $2,000 for air flight from you got the money. But no, we'll take care of you. You know, you got a free place to stay anyway. So any other questions out there, Marty? You done a good job today. See, didn't have any idea what we talk about, but we killed an hour, and I think everybody enjoyed what Gabriel had to say today. You see that he's very involved with the space community in a way that I'm not. Moon Express, what was that about?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Moon Express, sadly now defunct, but was a locally based operation here involving Bob Richards and Jay Honeycutt and others. And, was, an early startup to put, equipment on the moon.
Kind of what Intuitive Machines carried
exactly.
out with
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. Yes.
Just because there's so many startups that have failed, but a lot of people from those startups have segued to other companies, and lessons learned have gone with them. Correct, Gabriel?
Absolutely. Failure is the only path to success.
Yeah, there you go. Ask Elon Musk that. And here you got two guys here. We're not afraid of failure. Okay, we're gonna try some things like I have. I've had a few clunkers here and there, but we found a few things that are working for us: the memorabilia show, the auctions, and Shuttle Fest. And that's what we're putting a lot of my energy into. And if you're local, we need your support as a volunteer, just not financially. Give us 4 hours a month. Come down here, give a docent tour half a day a month, and you'll see what we're talking about: preserving the birth of America's space age in its delivery room, Brevard County. And it is such a privilege for me to have a part of that, as I know you feel the same way, Gabriel.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thank you.
We're gonna have a good week here together. We got our feet in the toe hold here to take the museum in the direction it's been heading, just with a lot of more certainty and energy behind these projects with people like Gabriel and his great mind leading us here. So said hi to everybody, I believe, here. Dean Babcock, didn't say hi to him. Steve Jokums, Cliff Watson, Gary Gerald, Tom Celentano, Carlton Bailey, Dave Stange, Helene Milbert, Doug Forrest, Bill Whiting, and Mitch Rothman. Thank you all for watching and spending some time with us today. Tell your friends to like us, share us, and contribute what you can to our amazing museum. Gabriel and I will be cooking up some concrete things, because I don't believe in just giving money randomly. There's things that we need to improve Stay Curious, things that we need to improve our galleries, and one thing I want to attack is our gift shop and get it up into the 21st century looks and merchandise. So you want to help us along the way with some of these projects and get that tax deduction at the end of the year. We're grateful for that. Go to our website and check that out. Any parting shots, Gabriel, you wanted to say to our fabulous, intelligent, stay curious watchers?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You are the best part of this museum, and we definitely appreciate you. And if you did work on one of these programs, if you had the inspiration, come join us as a docent here in the museum. Help share your knowledge, your experience, your history, personal anecdotes with the new generation, and help us continue that chain of inspiration. We are going to be looking to close the raise on the ISS monument, a new monument for Space View Park. So that's it's international. Not just we've gone through the Apollo, the shuttle, which put up ISS. The shuttle's done. The ISS is coming done. So we need to get a monument to the ISS. And there that and quite another. I mean, Shuttle Fest, that we've got, not only are there more launches happening, we have more events, more activity, happening than we've ever gone after before. But really excited for the next year, and excited to make our listeners, viewers, everyone out there part of it. So please come to Florida, and when you're here, stop in Titusville and visit the museum.
2025 is going to be a great year for the American Space Museum, and we hope that you can be a small part of it. And we welcome you in any way you can contribute. Thanks a lot for watching today. Thank you, Marty, for a great Streamlabs job over there. We haven't said hi to you on that UCAC family microphone, but he'll be back tomorrow, and he'll probably have a question or two for Terry White. He's going to have his handlebar mustache all waxed up real good for you, and he's bringing on a friend that together they help bring Columbia home, and we're going to talk a little about that tomorrow among the shuttles of the month of December. So until tomorrow, on behalf of the American Space Museum and my partner here, Gabriel Rothblatt, I'm Marquette, saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.